Okay, so I'm back. So, like I was closing out by saying, when you look at the biography with Isnad, it said the report from Aisha doesn't contradict that statement. It's actually saying that everything didn't start in the cave. It started before that, and that's where the love for going to sit in the cave by himself came from. To where the angel Jibril came to him and started to give him Quran al-Karim. You see what I'm saying? So when you're able to start to tie all those things in with the hadiths, with the biographies, which bring in the history, and then with the tafsirs and with the Quran, you start to get a better understanding. And I'm just speaking on a couple of I'm just speaking on that issue because a lot of people have never heard that before. Some may feel like it ain't important to know the deen, but the problem is this. If you come, let's say I was doing a class, and I started to bring that up in the classroom and show all this dalil, the people in the classroom will argue that. Although what they feel like is in their head, they've never read it, they never seen it, they never did no research about it. Somebody just told them that. Even though you showing them the dalil, and sometimes when you show them the dalil, they'll say, you know what, I need to go do some more research on that. When you showing them all the dalil. And that's why, like, some of these things should be taught from the beginning. That way, when people start to come across the truth or what's more authentically reported out there, they don't automatically reject it and argue it. Like, because they never heard something before, that means it's false. But they not a person that reads, studies, or go to school or sit with students of knowledge or anything like that. So because they never heard it before, it's impossible. That's why a lot of these things need to be taught from the beginning. And like I said, when you have these little bitty pieces of knowledge and going through and looking at these issues, it also teaches you how to do research and find even more. I seen a statement made in Tafsir Qartubi, but me knowing it's Tafsir Qartubi, I wasn't going to say, you know, this book bogus, because I never heard it before. I automatically said, let me go do some research on it. I knew I had never read a hadith that was that detailed, so I said, let me go to the Sirah. And then the Sirah led me to the hadith that I had been reading for years, because it didn't specifically say 3 years had passed or some of the parts that was left out of it, but it made it clear it all started with true dreams that was coming true, which led to the love for him going to the cave. And then that's when the angel Jibril came and pressed him and gave him the Quran. That's clear in the hadith. But I didn't know how to absorb that because I didn't have all the knowledge. And this is what reading tafsirs and reading particular hadiths, having this stuff, this is what it do for you. See, I read tafsirs, I read my Quran, but I read tafsirs all year long. And then when Ramadan comes, I put the tafsirs down and just read the Quran. It blow my mind away, the understanding that I have when I start reading it. I'm able to see it more clearly. And then through these things, I'm able to apply certain things to my life in accordance with how it should be, as opposed to doing what I want to do and then twisting up a Quran ayat and justifying it because I've only read the English. I haven't looked at the Arabic. I haven't looked at the tafsirs. I haven't looked at the hadiths that go with this. I haven't looked at the biography where the situation that made the Quran ayat come down. So therefore, I can misapply what's there based off of my desires. So it eliminates all of that. And then I have a better understanding. You see what I'm saying? So let me touch one more thing about the beauty of tafsirs. If people familiar with the muqatta'ats, right? So in your Quran, you have particular surahs that starts with letters, right? In the Quran, there's 29 surahs that start with letters. Your alif, lam, mim. Some of them repeat themselves, so without them being repeated, I've seen some people say that it's 14. I never counted them myself. But some people say it's 14 without the letters repeating themselves. So, a lot of us automatically been told, now, alhamdulillah, this wasn't originally what I was told. My very first Quran, which was an Ahmadiyyan Quran, I didn't know that at the time. And it was like a Mulana Muhammad translation. It was very old. So it had like a lot of words in Arabic, and they didn't even try to translate it to English. But they would just put the word, whatever the Arabic words, they would spell it in English, but they would spell it with like, they would use a different font. So they wouldn't like, you know what I'm saying? Those letters or those words in that sentence wouldn't look like the rest of the book, but it was still English letters. And that was their way of letting you know, we don't know how to translate this English word. So in this book, when it has stuff like alif, lam, mim, it would have in parentheses, I, Allah, am the best knower. Then when it comes to your alif, lam, ra, I, Allah, am the best seer. I, Allah, am the bestower. It gave meanings to it. So I remember for years, because I don't know, I just got this Quran. So being that this is how they, in parentheses, they translating this, I was repeating it. And I'm talking about, I probably did that probably for about maybe 5-6 years. And then finally I bumped into a brother that says, that heard me talking to somebody about it and was like, nobody knows the meanings of those words. So I would, you know, in my head, even though he told me that, in my head, why would this be in the Quran? Like, where did this even come from? And I'm asking him, because I knew how to use the word dalil, what's your proof for that? His proof was, when he was in prison, somebody in prison had told him that. So for years, you know, I just stopped saying it though. I did. And I went with what he said. Right? Because, you know, he was somebody I respected. I went with what he said, but he couldn't tell me where it came from. So even the statement that he had. So years, we talking about 20 something years went by, and I get into Tafsirs Kurtubi, and it brings the conversation right back to Tafsir Ibn Kathir, which I had read, touches on it a little bit, but not like what I had seen. So those letters at the beginning, let's speak on, and this is what the beauty of understanding the Salaf and the companions and the early generations of Muslims, what they thought of certain things. Then you will start to realize, where did these particular sayings, like who was the first one to say, give this meaning, and what was the ruling that they went by to have it? Knowledge leads to knowledge, right? Not having the knowledge leads to your own interpretation or blind following anything that's been said. So I'm going to do Tafsir Safdi first, right? A Safdi. When it comes to that statement, right? So when you come into it, it starts off with where it says, you know, the Basmalah, right? And has been explained, because they explained it in Surah Al-Fatiha. As for the individual letters, the Alif Lam Mim, this is starting off with Surah Al-Baqarah. Alif Lam Mim, in the beginning of some surahs, this is the commentary on it. The safest way, this is the tafsir, I'm saying commentary. This is the tafsir. The safest way is to avoid explaining the meanings without valid legislative textual evidence. It don't start off and say nobody has ever tried to give a definition to these words. Nobody ever said they had a meaning. Allah is the only person that know it. It starts off by letting you know the best, most safest thing to do is to avoid explaining their meanings, right? So, however, it is certain that Allah Azza wa Jal did not reveal these without a purpose. So they have some purpose, if not a meaning, right? But for a wisdom that is unknown to us, right? So then it goes off in, this is just a sakti, keeping it simple for the layman. So his tafsir and Jalalain, they kind of like for your everyday 9 to 5 Muslim with no dalil. So when you get into Tafsir Ibn Kathir, right, where they come in the chapter, the discussion of the individual letters. It's 29 surahs that start with these, right? The individual letters in the beginning of some surahs are amongst those things whose knowledge Allah has kept only for himself. This was reported from Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and Ibn Mas'ud. So this was their opinion. All of the Sahaba didn't agree with that. Right? So now this Tafsir Ibn Kathir. It was said that these letters are the names of some of the surahs, which Taha, Surah Taha, Surah Kaf, Surah Asad, Surah Yasin. That is the name of those surahs. It might be one more that I'm forgetting, but those is the names of those surahs. So, right? So that was some of the others said. It was said that these letters are the name of some of the surahs. It was also said that they are the beginning that Allah chose to start the surahs of the Quran with. Allah chose to start the surahs of the Quran with these things, right? But there's some dalil for this, and it's beautiful, right? So Kasif stated that Mujahid said the beginning of the surah, such as Kaf, Sa'd, that looks like it's a Tasin. Maybe it's supposed to be Yasin. Tasin mean and Alif Lam Ra are just some letters of the alphabet. So Mujahid said that they was just letters of the alphabet. Some linguists also stated that they are letters of the alphabet and that Allah simply did not cite the entire alphabet of 28 letters. For instance, they said one might say my son recites Alif, Ba, Ta, Va. He means the entire alphabet, although he didn't recite all of the alphabet. Right? This opinion was mentioned by Ibn Jarir. So then you come into another one. If one removes the repetitive letters, then the number of letters mentioned at the beginning of the surah is 14. Right? Then it goes off the name. So glorious is he who made everything, subtly reflecting has wisdom. Moreover, the scholar said there is no doubt that Allah did not reveal these letters for jest and play. Some ignorant people said that some of the Quran does not mean anything, right? Which is referring to these letters. saying they don't mean nothing at all. They just meaningless letters in the Quran, right? But he referred to them as ignorant people, right? Thus committing a major mistake. On the contrary, these letters carry a specific meaning, right? Further, if we find an authentic narration leading to the Prophet ﷺ that explains these letters, we will embrace the Prophet's statements. Otherwise, we will stop where we were made to stop and will proclaim. So then there's some more that says these letters testify to the miraculous Quran. So this is just a little bit of commentary with tafsirs about those letters. I don't want to read too much of it because I want to get into tafsir Qurtubi, right? So when you get into tafsir Qurtubi, and it starts off by saying that I'm trying to hurry up with it for the sake of time. So it says that interpreters or scholars of the tafsirs disagree about the letters at the beginning of the surahs, right? Amir Ash-Shabi, Sufyan al-Thawri, and a group of hadith scholars say that Allah has a secret in each of his books, and these letters are Allah's secret in the Quran. So their opinion was the letters are a secret, right? So they form a part of the opening of the book interpretation of the ayahs in the Quran, about which only Allah knows. It's not necessary to discuss them, but one should simply believe in them and recite them as they have come. So that was their opinion, right? So then this position was related from Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abi al-Layth as-Samarkandi, related that Umar, Uthman, and Ibn Mas'ud said the separate letters are branches of hidden knowledge which cannot be explained. Okay? Abu Hatim said we only find the separate letters in the Quran at the beginnings of the surah. Not in the middle, nowhere else in any parts of the surah, just at the beginning. We do not know what Allah Almighty means by them. So this was also stated by Abu Bakr al-Anbari, who reported from Al-Hasan ibn al-Hubab, from Abu Bakr ibn Abi Talib, from Al-Mundir and Wasiti, from Malik ibn Miqwal, right? Then they name a few more people. Says Allah Almighty revealed the Quran and has kept the knowledge of whatever He wishes for Himself, and He has acquainted you with what He wishes. As for what He keeps for Himself, you will not acquire it. So do not ask about it. As for what He has acquainted you with, it is that which you can ask and report about. You do not know the entire Quran, and you will not teach all that you know. Abu Bakr said this tells us that he concealed the meanings of the letters of the Quran from everyone as a test from Allah Almighty. Anyone who believes in them is rewarded and is fortunate. Anyone who rejects and doubts them sins and is far from Allah's mercy. Right? Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, a believer does not have any belief in anything better than belief in the unseen. Right? So, let me get to this part. So you're hearing all the different points of views, right? So then it says that the position of a large group of scholars, however, is that we should speak about this matter and search out the benefits it contains and the ideas that can be deduced from it. People disagree about the letters and say many different things. It is related from Ibn Abbas and Ali that the separated letters in the Quran are the greatest names of Allah. Right? though we do not know how it is composed from them. Right? So, let me get to the part that I really want to give y'all. So I'm giving y'all their positions, but I'm speeding it up for the sake of time. Right? So look at this. So right here, another group said that. Now they're giving a whole lot more, right? They're giving a whole lot more. I'll give y'all a little gist of it. So it was saying that some of them said that when the Quran used to be recited, and when they would start off with these letters, the kuffar, the people who say, don't listen to the Quran, this and that, when they would hear these letters, something in it would make them pause. And then they would start to listen. So that some of it, what was said, would get into their heart so that it could testify against them on the day of Yom Kippur. That we heard some of the Quran and we rejected it. And it also said with the challenge from Allah that for the people who were saying that the Quran was bogus, and they was like, well, then produce a book like it. Then it bust down, then produce a short surah like it. Produce this amount of ayats. Because with the way these letters are and the way that they use, they was never going to be able to produce a book. So this was also some of the opinion. How y'all going to produce a book and y'all don't even know how to put these type of letters at the beginning of surahs? So this was also some of the opinion. So I just sped up a little bit of that without having to read so much of it, right? So then another group said that there are letters which indicates the names of things from which they are taken. Ibn Abbas and others said that Aleph is from Allah, Lam from Jibril, and Mim from Muhammad. It is Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is said that the Aleph is the beginning of the divine name of Allah, Lam is the beginning of the divine name Latif, and Mim is the beginning of the divine name Majid. Abu Duha related from Ibn Abbas that Aleph Lam Mim means Allah knows best. So this is when I had the Quran that had this stuff in it, instead of saying Allah knows best, it said Allah am the best knower. It gave meaning to him. These meanings came from Ibn Abbas. So then it continues on to say Alif Lam Ra means Allah is the best seer. Alif Lam and Alif Lam Mim Sad means Allah am the bestower. So the Aleph indicates the idea as I. Lam indicates the name Allah, and Mim indicates the meaning I know. Now as Zaja preferred this position. So this is another person that agreed with it and said, I believe that each letter has a meaning. The Arabs have spoken by these letters in verses and used them instead of words. Sort of like shorthand, like a slang. Instead of saying the whole entire word, they used these letters. They were saying this was a practice that actually came from the Arabs, right? So then of course Zayd ibn Aslam said they are the names of surahs, right? Al-Kalbi said they are oaths which Allah Almighty swore by due to their excellence and honors. They are an aspect of His name. Ibn Abbas also said that. So Ibn Abbas also agreed and said they was names of Allah as well. So like when you saying I Allah am the best knower, I Allah am the best seer. So Ibn Abbas basically is saying they was names from Allah and he gave them meanings. Some scholars refute this position, saying that it is not valid from them to be oaths, because an oath is always connected to a particular, such as inna, things like that. So I won't make it too much longer. But the point is, some scholars from the past gave meaning to them. We talking about Sahabas. Ibn Abbas was a Sahaba. Some Sahabas gave meanings to them. Some said they the names of chapters, which some chapters do have the names, like 4 or 5 of them. And then some say it's a secret. So how did they come to the conclusion that only Allah knows? One, this is where ijma comes in. The majority, the consensus went with that, and then Allah never explained them, and the Rasul didn't explain them. So individual Sahabas, based off of their opinions and what they use for Dalil, which I haven't got to the point where I've dug deep to see what Ibn Abbas used for Dalil for these names and some of the other things, which you have to dig into other books and stuff that I don't have, and I haven't talked to somebody of knowledge for them that can dig deeper into it for me. But the point is, until you start to get into tafsirs and this and that, and then know the position, some of the things you've been told, some of the Sahaba may not agree with what you've been told. And like I said, when the very first Quran I had gave those words meanings, but nobody could ever tell me, like, why does this Quran, why does it have it in there? And then once I started to read tafsirs, and this tafsir Qurtubi, I seen those definitions that they had in there came from Ibn Abbas. And then there were some other Sahabas who agreed with him. So this wasn't always a ruling that nobody knows any names or any meanings, or these are names of Allah. But these things, because like I said, a particular group feel like this shouldn't be talked about. Then another group says that it should. It shouldn't be talked about, and it's just that you have to believe in it and just leave it alone. But then another group says, no, they should be talked about and it should be dived into. And these is from the scholars and the Sahaba and the people of the past. So this is why some people from a particular group, they don't talk about it, they don't discuss it. Now, I have spoke with somebody on a small level about it. We didn't have a lengthy conversation, but they're a student of knowledge, and like they said, some of the stuff we don't talk about, we feel like because the people not ready for it. We don't want it to confuse them. We don't want it to cause a debate, or we don't want them, because they don't understand what we're saying, to use that as ammunition, because they never heard it before, to refute us. You see what I'm saying? And cause bogus refutations and make fake videos and say the scholars said when the scholars ain't said nothing. You see what I'm saying? And then like right here where you can see is, this is an issue about Allah's book, where some people from the Salaf differed. This is a difference that they had. I'm not going to go into whether it's a difference of Aqidah, although it involves Allah's book. Or maybe it's a branch of it, but you could see these type of things when you get into tafsirs where they differed on a lot of things. So that's why. But knowing this and looking at more of this, it helped me understand different things when I start reading. It lead me to do more research and more research. So when I'm reading the Quran and when I'm digging into Hadiths, or when I'm listening to other people of knowledge talk about certain things concerning history, and as far as like history about everything that was going on during the time of the Rasul and why ayahs was revealed. You got to keep in mind, the Islam was revealed over a course of 23 years. Just take 23 years of your life and think of all that has went on. We talking about 24 hours in the day, right? 12 months in a year. Look at how much has took place in your whole entire life in 23 years. So it's a whole lot during that 23 years that was documented. And knowing those things help you understand and able to deal with things better when it comes to applying Islam to your actual life correctly. Not just talking about something and saying, oh, well, Rasulullah, alhamdulillah, your basic little things that make you look good in front of people, but it helps you understand how to apply your deen. Because people have to keep in mind about the questions in the grave. When you get questioned in the grave, a lot of the people answer, it's been reported, if they able to say anything at all, they basically going to say, I just say whatever the people said. Who is this person? They going to say whatever the people said. What was your deen? We going to say whatever the people said. What if all your actions that you doing the deen of Islam is basically what the people said? Oh, well, this is just what everybody was around that was doing. This is just what I was told. This is what this person told me. Can you go look into it? This is what you saying about the Quran. This is what you saying about Allah and what you saying about Allah's message. Can you go find anything to back those statements up? Oh, well, this is just what the people say. Like right now, you have groups of people, man, when they talk about Tawheed, they say that other groups of people done made Tawheed like what the Christians did with Jesus. Done made it into three, a Father, Son, Holy Ghost type of thing when it comes to Tawheed. You see what I'm saying? When it's spelled out clearly in the Al-Fatiha. All these groups, when you talk about Aqidah, there's certain branches of groups in Islam that doesn't believe in Aqidah. And then some people who've been to school know that Aqidah is broader than just the 4 or 5 little 6 branches that you know of Aqidah. Off one hadith, when not knowing that those hadiths, there's one that has 5 branches, there's one that has 6, and there's one that has 7, and all, when you put them all together, they all don't say the exact same branches. Then you have the Quran ayats. So Aqidah is more than just those 6 little fundamental things, but you have some people like your Sufis and different things and all Aqidah is not a thing to them. To them, that's just some stuff, those words that other scholars came up with. They put that stuff in those categories because they don't read tafsirs. Salaf is just something that Abdul Wahhab came up with, somebody who was just alive a few hundred years ago and this and that. But then when you read Tafsirs Ibn Kathir, who was around with Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, with Ibn Taymiyyah, some of those contemporaries around that time, they was using the word salaf. This isn't no new thing that came from Abdul Wahhab. When you read Tafsirs Ibn Kathir, it talks about the salaf. So these things, man, so that's why I wanted to say, yes, you can benefit from them, especially if you really want to know Islam on a higher level, and you want dalil, and you really want to be able to implement it and practice it the way that it should be, and talk about it the way that it should be talked about. You definitely need Tafsirs Ibn Kathir and Hadiths. Like, for the people that's not in a deviant group, and we all recognize that there's scholars out there, and I'm not talking about the people that I know in my environment that say weird stuff like we don't read no books or listen to no scholars, and I'm gonna be honest, when I hear people talk like that, to me you an agent. But when you're in a group and you want to sound sophisticated, you want to quote this person and that person, but then when it's some new people coming around, we don't read no books, we don't listen to no scholars, or Allah never said this in that book. When you talk like that and you've been Muslim longer than 10 years, to me you're an agent. I'm not saying it's a fact, but we're not talking about the people who talk this, we don't listen to no scholars, we don't read no books by scholars, or all those other books. hadiths only to confuse you and all that other type of stuff. Unless you from a different country where that's been instilled in you from birth. But other people, man, I'm going to think you're an agent because you turning people away from Islam. There's no way that you should have that way of thinking. So the question that I'm asking is, what scholars, because everybody acknowledges scholars, what scholars, real scholars, don't deal with hadiths and tafsirs? You can't even be a scholar of fiqh. You can't even come to a ruling properly in fiqh without understanding the Quran and hadiths. You got to be able to have a proper understanding of the Quran and hadiths, and this is tafsirs of the Quran, in order to issue out a ruling for people to act upon. So for people to say, oh, these hadith, this and that, oh, it ain't going to benefit us, it's not going to be necessary. You know, I done seen people, man, sit down and pick up Tafsir Ibn Kathir in front of me and was like, man, it's too much reading. It was so much reading that it was boring to them. You know, I just want to read the Quran. Quran had explanations at the bottom, parentheses. They don't want to read none of that. This is what help you understand it. You don't want to read none of it because you want to understand it how you want to understand it, and then therefore you don't never have to change. It don't work like that. You on the deen of something else. You on the deen of what you telling yourself is the deen, and you don't want to end up answering those questions in the grave, saying, "Well, I just say whatever the people say." My answer is what everybody else said, what everybody told me. So you got to keep that in mind, man. Just take 23 years of your life and just imagine what all has went on throughout that time. And then you got to put yourself in the mindset that Islam was revealed over a course of 23 years. These situations what made Quran ayahs come down. And then how it was implemented is what made hadiths. We talking about 23 years. And all this stuff was scattered out. All these tafsirs wasn't collected in one book. All these hadiths wasn't collected in one book. So you needed all of this. So now we had the convenience of it being put right in front of us. We ain't got to do all this traveling for one hadith, this and that. And now we neglect it. You know what I'm saying? One thing about when you look into with the Rasul now, right? And with him seeing the angel, Jibril and everything, there was a time when the message from Allah wasn't coming to him. Angel Jibril wasn't coming to his house or nothing because a dog was in there. So he not able to get the message of Allah. Jibril not bringing him anything because he had a dog in his house. But then some of us who have dogs and a whole lot of different things in our house and be up on other type of stuff, our mind doesn't factor in maybe what Allah want me to get is not coming to me. Because we got a puppy, my grandson, my grandchild wanted a puppy and all this other type of stuff. But because I could pick the Quran up, Allah's message is automatically coming to me. But what if you don't get the correct understanding of it? All because you got a dog in your house. All because you got particular type of pictures and different things hanging up in your house and all on your clothes. See, we don't know how to look into those type of things or look at those type of things because we have an extremely basic understanding of Islam, and all we do is read our Quran from time to time in English. But, you know, the done went off, man. I got to get to what I got to get to, man. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Any mistakes I made came from myself and the shaitan. Anything I said that was correct came from Allah Azza wa Jalla, Muqtadiya, wa Lalim wa Basir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.